have the power.
The power of Great Skull.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Solo Media, and we are here to talk about Masters of the Universe. Not the old one with a certain somebody, but the current one, the brand new 2026 film that is now officially in theaters, with a very star-studded cast of Nicholas Galitzine, Camila Mendes, Idris Elba, and Jared Leto. But we'll get to that when we get to that. But yes, so Mattel's one of their most iconic cartoons, Masters of the Universe, He-Man, She-Ra, amongst many others, has now, for the second time, though in the better way, been brought to a live action setting, as so much is brought in here that we just got to talk about. But I just got to say off rip, this film not only looks great, but it also succeeds where the original one with Dolph Lundgren failed to get at. And I think that there's an achievement on its own. There's just so much we could talk about. But first, Mike, how did you feel about Masters of the Universe when you saw it?
One, I knew about this IP. I've been, my father's been a fan of this franchise since he was a kid. So I knew, for years that this was that loves He-Man. I never really got into He-Man. I think it was part of a generation that kind of skipped me. That to a point I'm aware of He-Man, but I don't know all the ins and outs and stuff. So when I heard making this He-Man movie, I remember back in the days, back in AMC Movie Talk days, when they announced about making a Master Universe, when we saw that Image Battle Cat, when they went to a different director or whatever, before we even got to this point. And now just seeing, finally, now we got the Master Universe film. I'm just happy just to see that, hey, it's finally executed. And actually was not a bad time at all. I really enjoyed it. It's corny as hell, but I enjoyed it. And even this is the first time, don't get used to it. I was I didn't know anything. I didn't know characters popping up, who was who, and all that other side from He-Man and maybe a few other characters I had toys of as a kid, but that was it. Didn't know much about it.
And I mean, hey, look, I'm someone that as a kid grew up on a lot of older cartoons, especially including He-Man, through looking on Boomerang, for example. But it had been years and I had forgotten a few things here and there until seeing them in the movie, and they will pop up in my head. But now we have this film directed by Travis Knight, who I trust him. I trusted him when I heard his name because as you guys remember, he made Bumblebee. He made the Bumblebee movie for Transformers, which we can all agree is one of the better Transformers films, live action wise, period. Because it had a lot of heart. It respected the source material. It looked great. The action was really kinetic and you could tell what was going on. And I think he brought that, but also elevated that here. Because with the story of He-Man, we have Nicholas, who plays Prince Adam, being sent to Earth after Skeletor attacked his home world. And now he's on Earth where no one believes any of his stories until one day he happens to find his, the magical sword that, he brought with him here, and brings him on an adventure to go back to his homeland of Eternia, reunite with the characters, see the heroes of legend that he once saw as a kid, and in a sense, give them back that spark that they had lost under Skeletor's reign. And I think practically everyone in this cast does a really good job. Again, Nicholas really does a good job of playing a likable protagonist within Adam, aka He-Man. He's that type of lovable dork that you could see in characters like, say, Superman, but in the sense of he doesn't want to fight. He would rather find a peaceful way to solve things. But if he does need to fight, you're in for a world of whoop ass when it comes to it, because he does not hold back, especially when it comes to that power. Idris Elba going from, going into the character of Man-At-Arms, respected war general to a drunk to getting his spark back thanks to Prince Adam. And also the connection between Nicholas's He-Man and Camilla's Teela. There is a lot of tension there like, you know, romantic tension without needing to go all the
Yes.
way within this, which I think they're going to save for like a sequel, because it's like they bait at it, they hint at it, but you know, they don't go too crazy with it because that's not the type of story that they're trying to tell. But you could tell that the actors have a lot of chemistry. Hell, by the time we're recording this, I just literally saw a few interviews with them, even a, you know, Hot Ones episode with them, and you could tell they have amazing chemistry on and off screen. So that's why it really felt natural in terms of just their connection. There any other standouts that you could think of when it comes to characters? Because like, again, practically everyone does well, but I want to know a few of your highlights.
Men-At-Arms, Idris Elba. I thought he was a good addition to this, you know, ensemble. With the actor that plays Adam, He-Man, I recently saw him in The Sheep's Detective with Hugh Jackman. Great, beautiful film. But definitely he got a lot more jacked for this movie. No pun intended. But I thought that he did a really good job of not being afraid to lean into the ridiculousness of his character and also him as a quote-unquote masculine man. And I think there's also meta commentary in terms of what He-Man represents, and also in terms of his status as a man, as a symbol, whether for multiple communities, which, you know, we'll get into. But I felt like that actor definitely played with a lot of, you know, respect. And definitely, again, action-wise, definitely had the physicality, but I think his personality, he had a piece of his own identity to this, and I thought that was actually needed. Instead of making it more of like the Dolph Lundgren type of, you know, interpretation of Adam as He-Man. You know, I felt there's vulnerability to this version of He-Man in a way that some people might appear to be like, man, he looks stupid. Like, how could this guy be, you know, He-Man, you know, the guy with the sword of power, right? And I think that's the whole point about when he obtains the sword of power, what it represents, it becomes more epic. You know, we've been saying that He-Man joke for years. I have the power. You know, for years I've known that. But but now after you've seen it, this film depicted within canon of this story, it's like no. And when he obtains it and becomes He-Man, then it feels more epic. And I feel that all that, aside from the visual effects and with it all, with his performance, his portrayal, I thought he definitely elevated his role as He-Man.
Oh yeah, no, I can 100% agree. And I think that also really goes into the message of this film, where it really just goes into like there's many forms of masculinity that don't necessarily need to be like dude bro macho man, because like He-Man, again, when he gets the power, he looks strong, he looks powerful, he looks like he has a lot of weight to him, and he does, especially when you go into the fights that look absolutely incredible. I really like how the fights look within this movie. But when it comes to Adam the character, you know, everyone used to pick on him, you know, when he was a kid. There was even some that bullied him when he was a kid. You know, his father called him weak, you know, in a scene, you know, in the flashbacks, you know, when he was a child. And even when he's at Earth, you know, he's in human resources, you know, he's trying to resolve conflicts by talking them out, which a lot of them are just like, really? But it really just goes to show it's like, he's still brave, you know, he's still a kind person while still being a powerful person. You know, the He-Man, you know, none of that power is within the sword, this macho looking, you know, all powerful thing. It, as said within the film, the power comes from within him because it comes from the type of person that he is, the kind-hearted person who, yes, can still kick ass, but at the same time, like, he's more willing to try and resolve things in a much more peaceful manner. And I think that's just as, but it goes back to the Superman argument that we've had a lot recently. It's just like, you know, it's not weak to be kind. And I think a character like He-Man could also exhibit that. And especially like if you go into this film expecting another Superman like character in the way that you think, you know, Superman, I probably won't like this film. But I think in terms of if you understand what a character like Superman, that in relation to a character like He-Man, you know, goes to, I think you're really going to understand his hero's journey from where he is at the beginning of this film to where he ends up. Now, of course, we can't talk about this movie without talking about the villain Skeletor, who is played by Jared Leto. And usually, when it comes to Jared Leto being involved in a project, a film, typically it does not go well. We still remember how Tron Ares went. All right. It has not been that long that we can't remember that. But, and this is scary to say, this is probably one of his better roles in the last few years. And it's not just because of the fact that you don't see him, because of the fact that he is fully CG'd. Yeah, I mean, there was a practical suit, but he was fully CG'd with some really amazing CGI. It's not just the fact that he was masking his voice to sound not only intimidating, but also to match Skeletor's whimsy nature. It's just the fact that he really got lost in the character, that in a sense you were seeing Skeletor. Like, yes, Skeletor had a little more bass in his voice than he did in the cartoon, but you were still seeing Skeletor. You weren't seeing Jared Leto. It was really only by the end that you were reminded, oh right, yeah, that was Jared Leto. And so I think that's probably why it's one of his best performances, because it's not really him. We don't really see him. He's not really intruding on the plot. He is the main villain, and he is chewing the scenery in terms of being evil for evil's sake, which is what Skeletor is. But he's not invading, the story. He's not taking away from any of the other characters. He's either enhancing or standing on the shoulders of everyone else. And I think that's why, again, it worked here. Now, we'll definitely see Skeletor again at some point. Would it be Jared? I don't think they're gonna risk it again. But I think in terms of his performance here, it is weirdly his best performance. I will give him that, but that's mainly because I don't see him.
Yeah. I felt like with Jared, I mean, this past 2 years, well, some I even say more, but that Jared Leto is continuously is a person where you want a movie of bomb, put him in the movie, right? Put him as the villain, put him as the lead actor, put him as a voiceover for this character, whatever. Tron, Morbius. I'm trying to think of others. In the last few years, but just notoriously, where you're constantly seeing them. But you have to understand, this is an Academy Award-winning actor. Okay. And I believe that this was a role that definitely needed a particular voice to play him. But I think Jared Leto did more than just provide a menacing type voice, but he also had a physicality to this role, literally. And then when you see this in the most ridiculous way possible, and I think the part of even that makes it funny is the fact of how he just playing off of this villainous character, just being villain. Just being evil for the sake of being evil, so that's and Jared Leto has a history of doing that. Even when it comes to laughing, there's a part of Jared Leto Joker laugh in this if you hear it, but he also pulls himself when you hear the voice. It's like, yeah, he's hitting there, and it's like, okay, now he's pulling away. Now this is not, Suicide Squad Joker. You know what I mean? And I like that it shows him as an actor he's able to balance it off. He knows exactly what he's leaning to when he does that. But I think the first time, when seeing Jared Leto, or not seeing his face, but having his presence or physicality to it, well, okay, would definitely benefit it, because if you did see his face, it probably would have been too distracting, and for audiences, I believe. But I think he did a good job embodying the villain of Skeletor, and what Skeletor was needed within the story of this film.
I agree. And again, it is weird to say that, but I mean, hey, moments like this are going to happen. And again, as I said, this movie looks beautiful. Like, again, especially when we get to Eternia and like both flashback wise and then as it progresses, throughout the story. And also, we just got to say, there are so many references, of course, not only to the original He-Man cartoon, but even to the first attempt at this so long ago, before it was even at an age where you thought something like this was possible, such as original characters from the Dolph Lundgren version of He-Man showing up in this and being part of Skeletor's crew, or a certain cameo, or just certain things that you notice in the background. And of course, with the cartoon, the characters' clothes, the colors of them. Again, there's just so much that you could look back. This has a lot of rewatch value too, when it comes to this film. But yeah, just overall, I think that this film is a really, really good introduction into the world of Masters of the Universe. You know, you could really go in this without knowing a single thing. You know, whether you are somebody that had any experience when it came to He-Man and his legacy of characters, or somebody that did not know a single thing but wanted to experience this, I think this is a perfect introductory for you. Now, there are 3 post-credit scenes that happen within this. One of them, or 1.5 of them, I'd say, are really important, you know, in terms of where this could go. And I hope this gets a sequel. Now, sadly, this film had to come out during a time where there are many, many other really good films also in theaters, such as Obsession or Backrooms or Scary Movie, which we also talked about, or Michael still being out, you know, so it came at a bad time. But I think this is still definitely worth your time and worth your ticket money. If you have the time, I encourage you, please go. Because if you want a fun time with a fun cast that really know what they're doing, action that looks incredible, colors that pop and are vibrant, sets that feel lived in, and a message that is just so wholeheartedly superhero, I think that you will have a really good time with Masters of the Universe, which is now officially out in theaters. Again, don't listen to, like, you know, the scoring. I think many of us that have seen it can pretty much say this is a film that is meant to be seen, and I really hope that this gets a sequel. Mark, what are your final thoughts as we, you know, wrap this up?
Yeah, I just said that take this movie for what it is and appreciate it, because there's a very few times when we actually see a film knows the fact that it's not trying to take itself too seriously, but has that balance when there's scenes that are calling that to be dramatic. There's points where you can say it might become across the cliche, but if you're not a fan of He-Man, or not, or at least not aware of the lore and everything, and if you are a diehard He-Man fan, I think there's something for both of you, to take from this. Just have an entertaining experience at theaters. And it's just a fun film. It's a fun film. But Easter egg wise, there's a lot of Easter eggs. There's a couple post credit scenes, and each character is now in kind of more full embodiment of who those characters are, even within the animated show. But also just in terms of what He-Man represents, the themes. This movie's very gay, and I mean that in the best way possible, in however you receive that. And that's the best way I can say. This movie is probably the gayest movie I've seen this year, but I mean that in the best way possible, and however you receive it. Happy Pride, by the way, whatever you celebrate that. Happy Pride. Guess what? You also have to understand marketing. There's a reason why this movie came out this month. Pay attention.
Yeah. I mean, come on. We know the meme. We know the meme. We all know we all know. But anyways, make sure to subscribe, comment, like, and share. Let us know what you thought of Masters of the Universe, whether you have seen it or not. And again, we would very much encourage to go see it, because I think you will have a really, really fun time with this. Yep. There's a lot to love here. There's a lot you could probably criticize, but there's a lot to love and just have fun with. But yeah, guys, that's it. We got a lot coming down in the pipeline, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.